Hello everybody and welcome back to Pokemon White 2. So last part we went through Route 19 and we also visited Floccesy Town. And now we are going to be continuing to search for our friend Hugh as we now go through Route 20. And now here's where we not only begin our first set of regular trainer battles, and here's also where we're going to begin our major Maker Wild encounters that we're going to be getting. Now, if you recall when I said that things were going to get expansive when it comes to catching Pokemon, that's because Black 2 and White 2's regional dex doesn't just have the Gen 5 Pokemon. This time, they included a bunch of Pokemon from the previous generations, which of course means that there is more of a variety this time around. Yeah, meaning that of course, yeah, you'll be able to experience even more Pokemon than you couldn't have before, that you really couldn't get to within the prequels. So anyways, everyone, now, and I guess I'll just say this as well too. Now as you'll probably hear, the regular trainer music has not been changed. Although not that I don't mind at all. I actually do like the trainer music for this generation. So honestly, I'm glad that it didn't get altered. Yeah, but anyways everyone, now as to the Pokemon that we can get in this route, now we can still get Bertrand and Purrloin if we did not find them previously. Now, and then she can also get Pidove and Sawadle much more sooner than you could have had within the prequels. And it is also where we get our first non-Gen 5 Pokemon. That actually being the weakest one of them all, Sunkern. Yeah, way to start us off, huh? Yeah, our first non-Gen 5 Pokemon, and it's a Sunkern. Yeah. Way to freaking hype us up, jeez. But anyways, everyone, now we're not gonna be able to get access to the dark grass Pokemon yet. Is because there will be a hiker that is going to be blocking your path, so you unfortunately cannot go there yet. But once we do, once we are able to get past him, then we will be able to encounter Venipedes. So yeah, you can actually now, yes, right now, just like with Sawadle, you can also get Venipedes relatively earlier. Now she can also get Venipedes earlier this time too. So yeah. Now as for the Pokemon that you can find in the rustling grass, now this right here is the beginning of where you can get your regular encounters with Shaundidos, which of course means that you'll be able to get a bunch of experience out of them. and you can also encounter a Dunsparce there too. Yeah, she can also encounter Dunsparce within the rustling grass too. So yeah. Then as for Pokemon that you could get on the water. Now here's our first time where you can not only capture Azurill normally, but you can also get Marill and Azumarill within the surfing Ripple as well too. So if you want to skip Azurill and just go right to Marill and Azumarill, you can do that. Now as for fishing, it is essentially identical to Route 19, and then Route 20 is the very first route that we have a first set of Swarm Pokemon. Now, just like previously, now there will be some Pokemon that you can know. There will be Swarm Pokemon that are different, depending on the version that you are playing. Now, as for this route's case, if you're playing Y2, you'll be able to encounter Mr. Mime, and in a Black 2, you'll be able to encounter Pseudo Woodo. So yeah, like I said, we have a bunch of Pokemon that we can get right out of the gate. And it will get even more expansive as we head into the next area. That is actually just a little bit over to our left, off this route. Yeah. But anyways, everyone. Now, as I was saying previously about how this route is different, is majorly changed within the autumn season. Is because leaves will pile up at various spots on the route, and this will enable access to secluded items not reachable within the other seasons, as well as trainers on the south end of the route too. But I think if you want to be able to get access to those trainers on the south end of the route, yeah, I think you actually need to get access to Surf first in order for before we even think about even getting to that. Yeah. But anyways, everyone, and wow, yeah, as you've been seeing, yeah, multiple times in a row. I got my first encounter with Purrloin, then P-Dove, then Swaddle, and now Sunkern, meaning that I've already got our first encounters with every single Pokemon possible. Wow. which is definitely a good thing that I bought all of those. It is definitely a good thing that I bought all of those Pokeballs. Because I pretty much knew for a fact that we were definitely going to be getting all of these. Because I knew for a fact that if we're going to be getting a bunch of wild encounters, which means that we're definitely going to be getting a bunch of Pokemon. And wow, this Sunkern is pretty resilient actually. Yeah, despite being the weakest of every single Pokemon out there, the Sunkern just will not stay aside. Yeah, it's taken at least 3 Pokeballs. Yeah, 3, there you go. Yeah, in order for us to be able to get this bitch. Jeez. like I said, this Sunkern, the seed Pokemon, was definitely quite the resilient Pokemon. Although, it's too bad that I'm not going to be using them. Although, why would you ever use Sunkern anyway? Because like I said, it is the weakest of all the Pokemon possible anyway. But anyways, everyone, I'm gonna be going back to heal myself up first. Then once I do that, then we're gonna be entering the next area of the game. Now, and I'm gonna say this right now. Now, when I first played this game, half of the members of the Pokemon that I utilized for my team during my first time playing this game, the majority of them came from, half of the team that I utilized during my first time playing this game. Yeah, they came from the next area that we're going to be going to. Because, I honestly thought that those guys were really going to be mighty helpful. And, well, at least 2 of them were. The third one was just there because I needed someone that I could utilize Surf, Waterfall, and even Strength for. Yeah, meaning that. Yeah, I didn't exactly have, meaning that this was still back then when I didn't really utilize a full team. I didn't really utilize the full team. Instead, I had at least two Pokemon that I needed to utilize. HM moves like Fly, Surf, Waterfall, Strength, and all that. Yeah. But anyways, everyone, now we're gonna be entering the next area that I was just talking about. The full Floccesy Ranch. Now, as for the Pokemon that we can find surfing, now, and also fishing, are essentially identical to what we found in that we can find in Route 20. So I'm not gonna bother. I'm not gonna bother going over them again. But well, of course, what I will cover is indeed the Pokemon that we can actually find here. Now, as you've been seeing, now here's where we can get our encounters with Now here's where we can get our Lillipup encounters. Yeah. This time we find a Lillipup this time we find Lillipup a little later on. Yeah, not too much later, not too much later, just a little. But anyways, everyone, now as for the other Pokemon that we can find here, now we can still find a Patrat and a Pidove here. And a Pidove here too. So if you didn't find them previously, you can still find them here. Then as for the other Pokemon, now since we don't have access to Surf yet, now you can actually find you can find wild Azurals within this within the grass around here. So if you still want to utilize an Azumarill, you still can. Then as for the other three Pokemon, which are actually the very three Pokemon that I actually utilized during my first time playing this game. And those three are, oh, speaking of which, there's one of them, Psyduck. Yeah, but however, this time, since I already have my water type, which means, yeah, I'm not gonna have a Psyduck as an actual permanent member on my team this time. Yeah, so Psyduck, once I have my full team, you're gonna be boxed. Yeah. Yeah. So essentially, during my first time playing this game, I did pick up a Psyduck, and I did evolve him into a Golduck, but I only really did that so I could get him to utilize Strength, and as well as Surf and a Waterfall. So yeah, once I had the Psyduck evolved, I just didn't really bother utilizing him, and I just didn't bother utilizing him ever again after that. Yeah. Excuse me. But anyways, everyone, now as for the other two Pokemon, the second one that I also utilized on my team, the first time around, being Mareep. But however, I thought this time around, since I already utilized the Mareep during my Soul Silver playthrough, I decided I'm gonna save my Electric-type Pokemon for a little later on. But you're definitely gonna see what I mean, which one, for when we actually get to actually encountering it. Then as for the final one, and it is still, once again, a very rare, and it is still a rare Pokemon to find in the Floccesy Ranch, it's right here, actually, Riolu. Now, unlike the other two, Riolu is still going to be an official team member, because and this is also definitely the first time ever where you'll ever get to experience, a Riolu really early on. Now, as for the ability, then I would rather prefer when it comes to Riolu / Lucario. I would much rather prefer Riolu to have inner focus instead of steadfast. It's because Riolu is pretty fast on its own, and especially Lucario. So honestly, I don't really want him increasing speed when he gets flinched. But anyways, there we go. Riolu, the emanation Pokemon. It uses the shapes of auras, which change according to emotion, to communicate with others. Why, yes, he certainly does indeed. Okay, now, like I said, I would much rather prefer a Riolu / Lucario with inner focus. But, however, considering that, as I said, Riolu in Floccesy Ranch is still really rare to get. Yeah, especially like just like it was in an area within the prequels. Yeah, but considering that I really want to have a Riolu on my team, so if I do get Steadfast Riolu, I really personally wouldn't mind, but again, I would much rather prefer inner focus. And let's see, and it is Steadfast. But again, this isn't the end of the world. Now, I am still going to be utilizing this for Riolu. It's just that I would much rather prefer inner focus instead of Steadfast. But since I did make a Quagsire with Damp and a Heracross with Swarm work during my Soul Silver playthrough, I suppose I could still make do with a Riolu with. I guess I could still make do with a Riolu with Steadfast. It's just that Riolu is gonna be now. It's just that Riolu is gonna feel the flinching. It's just that every time when he does get flinched, he will get an increase in speed. So again, it's not the end of the world. But anyways, everyone, with that said, yeah, I feel like I've done more than my fair share of this part, especially with all of the catching I've been doing. So the next part, I'll see you guys next time.